Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of the enormous Stellar Coalition flagship, his dark eyes fixed on the blue-green planet displayed on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from orbit, a swirling marble of clouds and oceans that belied the primitive species inhabiting it. "Report," Tay ordered, his voice calm but commanding. Officer Hahn stepped forward, tablet in hand. "Scans confirm our initial findings, Admiral. The planet is rich in resources, water, minerals, rare elements. Their technology is rudimentary. Compared to ours, they've barely reached their own moon." Tay nodded thoughtfully. The Coalition needed these resources desperately. Their expansion had consumed too many worlds too quickly, and their home systems were depleted. Earth was perfectly positioned, resource-rich but technologically backward. "What about their defenses?" Tay asked. "Fragmented and weak," Hahn replied. "They divide themselves into something called countries. They compete with each other rather than uniting. Their most powerful weapons are nuclear but primitive, nothing that can touch our shields." Tay's lips curled into what passed for a smile among his species. "Prepare the first wave, target their largest population centers, show enough force that they understand resistance is futile, but try to preserve infrastructure. We need this. Planet intact." The invasion began at dawn across multiple time zones. Coalition ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their advanced cloaking systems only failing when they were already positioned above major cities. Tokyo, New York, London, Mumbai, Beijing. The ships revealed themselves simultaneously, massive, shadows blocking out the sun. On the ground, people stopped and stared upward. Traffic halted. Phones came out to record the impossible sight. Then came the first demonstration of power, precision energy weapons that carved perfect circles through landmark buildings. The Coalition's standard intimidation tactic. But something unexpected happened. In Seoul, Captain Kim of South Korea's defense force watched the alien ship hovering above his city. He had expected this day might come, though not so soon. While politicians argued and civilians fled, Kim acted. He had prepared for this scenario, not because he believed in aliens specifically, but because he believed in being ready for anything. "Hold positions," he ordered his unit through the comm system. "Wait for my signal." The alien ground forces deployed, expecting to find chaos. Instead, they found Kim's unit, organized and waiting. The aliens had superior technology, but they hadn't counted on human resourcefulness. Kim's soldiers used the urban environment to their advantage, setting traps and ambushes. In the Coalition command ship, Admiral Tay received the first troubling reports. "Sir, ground units in Sector 12 are encountering organized resistance," a communications officer reported. Tay frowned. "Impossible. They should be panicking." But the reports continued to come in, not just from Seoul, but from cities around the day globe. Humans weren't behaving according to the standard invasion model. They weren't surrendering. They were fighting back with surprising effectiveness. In New York, police officers formed improvised units with military veterans. In London, subway tunnels became resistance headquarters. In Mumbai, civilians helped soldiers move through back alleys to flank alien positions. "They're coordinating," Hahn said, his voice betraying surprise as he studied incoming data. "They're using something called the Internet to share information about our weapons, our tactics. They're learning." Admiral Tay's confidence began to waver. He had led 17 successful planetary conquests. None had gone like this. None had seen the locals adapt so quickly. "Sir," Hahn continued, "we've lost contact with dropship teams in multiple locations. And the humans, they've captured some of our technology." On the ground, Captain Kim examined the alien weapon his unit had recovered. Despite its advanced design, its principles were understandable. Point and shoot. His engineers were already taking it apart, figuring out how it worked. "Sir," one of Kim's lieutenants called out, "we're getting reports from Japan. Their defense forces found a weakness in the alien body armor. They're sharing tactical data now." Kim nodded. "Download it all and upload what we've learned about their weapons." He looked at the alien ship still hovering above Seoul. "They thought we would be easy to conquer because we're divided. They don't understand that humans can unite very quickly when faced with a common enemy." Back on the command ship, Admiral Tay watched with growing concern as the situation worsened. His species prided themselves on careful planning, on knowing what to expect. But humans were unpredictable. They improvised. They took risks that seemed irrational. "Sir," Han reported, "we're getting word that humans have already reverse-engineered one of our communication devices. They're attempting to listen to our transmissions." Tay felt the first real stirrings of worry. This was supposed to be an easy conquest, a footnote in the Coalition's expansion. Instead, it was becoming something else entirely. "Order all units to regroup," he commanded. "We need to reassess our approach." As night fell across Earth, Admiral Tay stared at the updated battle reports with disbelief. The humans weren't just resisting. In some areas, they were winning. And they were learning with each passing hour. Tay had never encountered a species like this before. And for the first time in his long military career, he wondered if the Coalition had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Tay paced the command deck, his normally composed demeanor shattered. 3 full cycles had passed since the invasion began, and nothing was proceeding according to plan. The tactical displays showed red alerts across all major engagement zones. "Explain this," he demanded, pointing at the screen showing their losses. "How are they adapting so quickly?" Officer Han looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the humans are different. When we captured that city in the region they call Brazil, we expected the surrounding areas to surrender. Instead, they studied our attack patterns and developed countermeasures." Tay slammed his fist on the console. "They're primitives. They were fighting each other just days ago." "That appears to be part of the issue, sir," Han replied carefully. "Their constant conflicts with each other have made them exceptionally good at warfare. They've been fighting among themselves for their entire recorded history." The Admiral stared at the global map, where Coalition forces were now being pushed back in multiple sectors. "What about their technology? How are they suddenly using weapons that can penetrate our armor?" Han brought up footage from a recent battle. "They're not just fighting with their own weapons anymore. They're taking ours, figuring out how they work, and turning them against us. Look at this." The screen showed human soldiers using modified Coalition energy rifles. The modifications were crude but effective. The humans had somehow amplified the power output beyond safety protocols. "That's impossible," Tay whispered. "It took our engineers 20 years to develop those weapons." "There's more," Han continued. "We captured this from their information networks." The screen changed to show a human facility where white-coated scientists surrounded a damaged Coalition scout ship. Colonel Park, the newly appointed head of Earth's Unified Defense Technology Division, moved among them, examining components and issuing orders. "We recovered this craft mostly intact," Park was saying in the recording. "The propulsion system uses principles similar to our theoretical work on gravitational manipulation. Their communication technology operates on quantum principles we've been exploring. We can work with this." Tay felt a chill run through him. "How old is this recording?" 18 hours, Han replied. "And what progress have they made since then?" Han hesitated before responding. "Our monitoring suggests they've already replicated basic functions of our short-range communicators and are close to understanding our shield technology." Meanwhile, in a hidden underground facility beneath the ruins of what had once been a university, Engineer June wiped sweat from his brow as he connected the final components of the modified alien power cell. Before the invasion, he had been developing energy storage solutions for electric vehicles. Now he was weaponizing alien technology. "Ready for the test," he announced to the small group of former students and colleagues gathered around him. They moved back as June activated the device. The power cell hummed to life, emitting a blue glow that steadily grew brighter. "Energy. Output at 200% of original capacity," called out one of his assistants, reading from a hastily assembled monitoring setup. 300%, stabilizing at 320%. June allowed himself a small smile. "That should be enough to overload their shield generators." Across the room, a former graduate student had disassembled an alien communication device and connected it to an ordinary laptop. "Their encryption is complex but follows logical patterns," she explained to another resistance member. "They never expected anyone to hack their systems, so they built less security than we use for our banking apps." What the aliens couldn't understand was how quickly humans could improvise when survival was on the line. The knowledge sharing that June's team accomplished in days would have taken months through normal academic channels. Back on the Coalition command ship, Admiral Tay received increasingly disturbing reports. "Sir," a junior officer interrupted, "our ground forces in Sector 34 are reporting that humans have developed some kind of sonic weapon that targets our sensory organs. They're having to retreat." Tay turned to his chief medical officer. "Is this possible? They couldn't know about our physiological weaknesses." The medical officer looked grim. "They must have captured and studied our fallen soldiers. Their medical science is primitive, but their analytical abilities are concerning." In what had once been a suburban neighborhood, now transformed into a resistance stronghold, ordinary citizens worked alongside military personnel. Grandmothers sewed special cloths that could disrupt the aliens' thermal vision. Teenagers who had spent years playing strategy games designed ambush tactics that confounded the rigid Coalition battle doctrines. The aliens had expected humans to break under pressure. Instead, pressure was forging them into something more dangerous. "They're unlike any species we've encountered," Han told Admiral Tay in a private briefing. "They don't specialize like we do. Their scientists can become warriors. Their warriors understand technology. They adapt to almost any environment. And most disturbing of all, they become more unified and more effective when threatened." Tay stared out at the blue planet below. What had seemed like an easy conquest was quickly becoming a nightmare. His forces were stretched thin, taking losses they couldn't afford, and facing an enemy that grew stronger rather than weaker with each engagement. "Sir," Han said quietly, "there's something else. Our long-range scanners have detected unusual activity at their lunar base." "They have a lunar base?" Tay asked, surprised. "A small one, yes. We dismissed it as inconsequential. But they've been shuttling our captured technology there, away from our direct observation." Tay felt the first tremor of genuine fear. The humans weren't just defending their planet. They were planning something more, something the Coalition might not be prepared for. "Send a recon team to their moon," he ordered. "I want to know what they're doing up there." But even as he gave the command, Admiral Tay wondered if it might already be too late. The humans were proving to be far more than any of them had bargained for, and the Coalition had awakened something that perhaps should have been left alone. Dr. Sun moved carefully around the examination table, her slender fingers adjusting instruments as she studied the captured human soldier. The human was unconscious but securely restrained. The Coalition had quickly learned that humans were unpredictable, even when seemingly subdued. "Fascinating," she murmured, examining the readings on her scanner. "Their cellular structure allows for remarkably efficient regeneration." The medical bay of the Coalition research vessel was sterile and cold, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. 3 other humans lay on similar tables nearby, all subjects of Dr. Sun's increasingly urgent research. Admiral Tay had demanded answers, and she was determined to provide them. Her assistant, Medical Officer Lee, looked up from his own analysis. "Doctor, I've completed the comparison of their physiological responses to our previous subject species. The results are concerning." Sun moved to his station, studying the charts he'd prepared. Her eyes widened as she absorbed the implications of the data. "This can't be right," she said. "Run the tests again." Lee shook his head. "I already did. 3 times. The humans require less rest than any sentient species we've encountered. They can function on minimal nutrition when necessary. And their pain tolerance," and he paused, looking troubled, "it exceeds our measurement scales in some instances." Sun turned back to look at the unconscious humans. They appeared so fragile, their skin soft and vulnerable compared to the Coalition's natural armor, yet appearances were deceiving. "What about their psychological assessment?" she asked. Lee handed her another datapad. "That's even more unusual. They display both strong, individualistic traits and powerful group cohesion. When one human achieves something, others can rapidly learn from it. They compete and cooperate simultaneously." In another section of the research vessel, Coalition intelligence officers were reviewing footage captured from Earth's information networks. They watched in growing disbelief as humans from opposite sides of conflicts that had raged for generations suddenly united against the alien threat. Ancient enemies were now sharing resources, intelligence, and technology, all focused on a single goal: survival. They seemed so divided, one officer commented. Their global communications were full of arguments, opposing viewpoints, conflicts. How did they unify so quickly? His superior had no answer. The coalition's previous conquests had followed predictable patterns. Species with strong central authorities collapsed when those authorities were eliminated. Highly individualistic species failed to coordinate effective resistance. Hive-minded species became chaotic when their communication networks were disrupted. Humans fit none of these patterns. Back in the medical bay, Dr. Sun was preparing her report for Admiral Tay. The findings were troubling enough that she had summoned him personally rather than sending the data through normal channels. When the Admiral arrived, his usual confident bearing was noticeably diminished. The campaign against Earth was taking its toll on everyone in the coalition forces. "This had better be important, Doctor," he said curtly. "We've lost 2 more ships in the last 12 hours. Sun activated the large display screen on the wall. "It is important, Admiral. I believe I've identified why our standard conquest protocols are failing against the humans." The screen showed a series of comparative physiological scans, coalition anatomy alongside human anatomy. "We evolved as specialists," Sun explained. "Our species developed in a stable environment with few predators. Our bodies and minds are optimized for specific functions." She highlighted sections of the human scan. Humans evolved as extreme generalists in a highly changeable environment with numerous predators and competitors. They're not optimized for anything specific. They're adaptable to almost everything. Tay studied the images with growing concern. "What does this mean for our campaign?" "It means," Sun said carefully, "that strategies that worked on other species won't work here. But there's more." She changed the display to show brain scans. "Their neurochemistry reveals something unique. When faced with threats, most species experience fear that eventually leads to submission when the situation appears hopeless. Humans experience fear differently." She played a recording taken during the examination of one of the captured soldiers who had regained consciousness. Despite being completely restrained and at the mercy of alien captors, the human had shown defiance rather than terror. "Where are the others?" Sun had asked in the recording. The human soldier had smiled, actually smiled, before responding. "They're figuring out how to kill you all." Sun paused the recording. "When humans feel threatened, their fear often transforms into determination or even anger. They become more dangerous, not less, and they can maintain this heightened state for extended periods." Tai paced the room, digesting this unwelcome information. "What about their technology adaptation? How are they learning to use our weapons so quickly?" "That's related to another unique trait," Sun replied. "Their brains form new neural pathways faster than any species we've studied. They evolved to use tools rather than evolving specialized natural weapons. Give a human any object, and they'll find a way to use it, often in ways the creator never imagined." She displayed footage from Earth showing humans using modified coalition technology. In one clip, they had reconfigured a communications array into a device that disrupted coalition targeting systems. In another, they had somehow weaponized a simple agricultural tool from their own civilization against coalition armor. "Most concerning of all," Sun continued, "is their social structure. We thought their divisions were a weakness, but they're actually a strength. Their different cultures, governments, and ideologies have created a species that can approach problems from multiple perspectives simultaneously. When they share solutions, they progress exponentially." Tai stood silently for a long moment, staring at the humans on the examination tables. Finally, he asked the question that had been haunting him for days. "Can we win this war, Doctor?" Sun met his gaze steadily. "Not with our current approach, Admiral. And every day we fight, they learn more about us while we barely begin to understand them. They don't just survive adversity, they thrive on it. This isn't just another conquest." She looked back at the human subjects. "We've awakened something unique in the galaxy." As if to emphasize her point, one of the humans opened his eyes at that moment. Despite the sedatives in his system, despite being in an alien environment surrounded by unknown technology, his gaze was clear and focused as he stared directly at Admiral Tay. And in that gaze, Tay saw something that sent a chill through his body. Not fear, not confusion, but calm. Patient resolve, the look of a predator biding its time. General Lee stood before the wall-sized tactical display, surrounded by military leaders from across the globe. 8 weeks had passed since the invasion began, and the room hummed with focused energy. The mood had shifted from desperate defense to something new, determination. "The alien forces have regrouped here, and here," Lee said, pointing to red clusters on the map. "They've abandoned their smaller outposts to strengthen their main positions. They're playing defense now." The gathered officers exchanged glances. Just weeks ago, such a statement would have seemed impossible. "What about their ships in orbit?" asked a commander from India's Special Forces. Lee nodded to his technical officer, who brought up a new display showing Earth's orbit. "They've positioned most of their fleet on the far side of the moon. They're trying to block our observation of whatever they're doing up there." "Let them hide," said Lee. "Today, we take back our cities. Tomorrow, maybe we take the fight to them." The assembled leaders broke into smaller groups, each focused on their role in the coming counter-offensive. What had begun as scattered resistance had evolved into a unified global force unlike anything in human history. Ancient rivalries had been set aside. Resources were shared freely. The best minds from every nation collaborated, and they had help from an unexpected source. In a former automotive factory now converted to weapons production, Engineer June supervised the final assembly of the newly developed pulse cannons. These weapons combined human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. Beside him stood Officer Day, one of 3 coalition defectors who had chosen to help humanity. "Will they work against their ships?" June asked, gesturing to the massive cannons. Day's alien features were now familiar to the humans who worked with him. "Yes, their shields are designed to stop projectiles and energy weapons as they know them. This hybrid approach—" He paused, searching for the right words. "They won't expect it." Neither June nor anyone else fully understood why Day and the other defectors had chosen to help humanity. Perhaps they'd been impressed by human courage. Perhaps they disagreed with the invasion. Or perhaps they simply recognized which way the wind was blowing. Whatever their reasons, their knowledge had proven invaluable. As dawn broke over what had once been Shanghai, now a coalition stronghold, alien sentries patrolled the perimeter with practiced precision. Their sensors detected no unusual activity. Their monitors showed nothing out of the ordinary. They didn't notice the small drones, modified children's toys equipped with signal jammers, that hovered just outside their detection range. They didn't spot the hundreds of soldiers who had spent the night slowly advancing through the sewers and subway tunnels beneath the city. The first sign that something was wrong came when their communications suddenly went silent. The counterattack began simultaneously in 12 cities across the globe. In each location, the approach was different. The aliens had taught humans the value of unpredictability. In Shanghai, they came from below. In Cairo, they used modified civilian aircraft that didn't register on alien scanners. In Vancouver, they advanced behind mobile shield generators that turned the Coalition's own defensive technology against them. On the Coalition command ship, Admiral Tay received the reports with growing horror. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Rio garrison," a communications officer reported. "Shanghai is under heavy assault. Cairo reports they're surrounded. Vancouver has fallen." Tay stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How? How did they coordinate this? How did they get past our defenses? Officer Han had no answers. The coalition military doctrine relied on technological superiority and predictable enemy responses. The humans offered neither. "Sir," Han said quietly, "some of our ground forces are surrendering." Tay turned sharply. "Surrendering to primitives? That's impossible. The humans are offering terms. They're treating prisoners well. Some of our soldiers have been fighting for weeks without rotation. They're tired. And the humans—" Han hesitated. "The humans fight like nothing we've ever seen. They don't give up." Back on Earth, tactical expert Min watched from a makeshift command center as the battle for Seoul reached its climax. Coalition forces had retreated to their ship, abandoning the ground battle entirely. "They're powering up engines," reported a technician monitoring alien communications. "They're trying to leave." Min smiled grimly. Perfect. Signal the launcher. Teams. Across the city, concealed pulse cannons powered up. These weapons, impossible just weeks ago, were the result of global cooperation. Chinese manufacturing, European design, American power systems, all combined with principles learned from the coalition's own technology. The cannons fired simultaneously. Brilliant blue energy pulses streaked skyward, converging on the coalition ship as it tried to rise from the ground. Its shields flared bright orange for a moment, then collapsed. The ship hung motionless for several seconds before settling back to Earth with a ground-shaking thud. Min allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before turning to his communications officer. "Tell General Lee we have our first intact ship. Similar." Scenes played out across the globe as humanity reclaimed its cities one by one. The coalition forces, never expecting to fight a prolonged ground war, found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. In his orbiting command ship, Admiral Tay watched in stunned silence as the situation deteriorated hour by hour. Reports of lost outposts gave way to reports of lost ships. Then came the most disturbing news of all. "Sir," Han reported, his voice tight with stress, "our long-range sensors have detected launches from Earth. Multiple launches." Tay stared at the display. Dozens of small craft were rising from different points on the planet's surface, heading towards space. "What are they?" he demanded. "Missiles? Attack craft?" "Unknown, sir. But they appear to be using modified versions. Save our own propulsion technology." Tay felt cold dread settling in his stomach. "They're coming for us." The human ships, cobbled together from Earth technology and salvaged alien components, weren't elegant or refined, but they were spaceworthy. And they carried weapons that the Coalition's defenses weren't designed to stop. "Sir," Han said, his voice barely audible, "there's something else. We're detecting energy signatures from their lunar base, massive energy signatures." Tay moved to the viewport, staring out at the blue-green planet below and its pale moon. In its just weeks, humans had gone from fighting for survival on the ground to launching a counterattack in space. They had taken coalition technology, understood it, improved it, and turned it against its makers. They never stopped at thinking how to defend their world, Tay realized aloud. From the beginning, they were planning how to take the fight to us. As the first human ships approached the coalition fleet, Admiral Tay faced the most difficult decision of his career. Continue a war against an enemy, unlike any they had faced before, or admit defeat and save what remained of his forces. The choice was becoming clearer by the minute. The great council chamber of the Stellar Coalition fell silent as Admiral Tay finished his report. The circular room, designed to accommodate representatives from 27 member species, felt unusually tense. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. The silence stretched uncomfortably as the assembled leaders processed what they had just heard. Elder Jin, head of the Coalition Council, finally broke the silence. His age-mottled skin rippled with stress colors as he leaned forward. "Let me be certain I understand correctly, Admiral," Jin said, his translator converting his natural clicks and whistles into standard speech. "You are recommending complete withdrawal from the Sol system? Abandonment of all established outposts? Because of these humans?" Tay stood straight despite his exhaustion. The journey back to Coalition space had been long and difficult. His fleet, once the pride of the Coalition's expansion forces, was now a battered shadow of its former self. He had lost 32 ships and over 20,000 personnel. "Yes, Elder, that is my recommendation." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Council Representative Yun, known for her hawkish views on expansion, rose from her seat. "This is unprecedented," she declared. "Never in our history have we abandoned a targeted system. You were sent with our most advanced fleet to secure a resource-rich planet occupied by pre-spacefaring primitives. How could you possibly fail so completely?" Tay had anticipated the question. Without speaking, he activated the holographic projector at the center of the chamber. A three-dimensional image appeared, the wreckage of one of his ships, torn, open like a prey animal. "This was the cruiser Dominance," he said quietly. 3 lunar cycles ago, it was the most advanced warship in the quadrant. The humans captured it intact when they retook their city of Sydney. Within 5 days, They had learned enough about its systems to disable its sister ship in orbit. He changed the image to show a human vessel, crude by coalition standards, but undeniably spaceworthy. This craft intercepted and disabled the Vigilance using weapons the humans developed by studying our technology. Note the modifications they made to our standard shield disruptors, improvements our own engineers never considered. Elder Jin studied the image carefully. How many ships did they deploy against you? By the end, over 200. Most were hastily constructed, but they were piloted with exceptional skill and determination. Council Representative Yoon scoffed. 200 primitive vessels against a coalition fleet. You should have obliterated them. Tae's expression hardened. We destroyed the first wave and the second. By the third wave, they had adapted their shields to withstand our weapons. By the fourth, they were using our own technology against us. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. You don't understand what we faced. These humans, they're not like us, not like any species we've encountered. Dr. Sun stepped forward then. As chief xenobiologist of the expedition, her insights carried significant weight. She had spent the journey back to Coalition space, analyzing everything they had learned about humanity. Counselors, she began, humans evolved on a death world. This statement produced the intended shock. Death worlds, planets with extremely harsh conditions and numerous apex predators, were rare in the galaxy. Sentient life emerging from such environments was even rarer. Their planet experiences extreme temperature variations, regular natural disasters, and supported multiple apex predators during their evolution. The humans didn't just survive there, they dominated it. Sun activated her own data display, showing human physiological scans alongside historical images from Earth. They can survive in environments ranging from blistering deserts to frozen wastelands. They can recover from injuries that would kill most species. Their endurance exceeds anything in our records. She changed the display to show historical human conflicts. They've been waging war against each other for their entire recorded history. Each conflict taught them new tactics, new technologies. When we arrived, we effectively united thousands of years of military tradition and expertise against a common enemy, us. The council chamber had grown utterly silent again. Sun continued relentlessly. Their creativity and problem-solving abilities exceed our predictive models. They don't approach obstacles the way we do. When faced with superior technology, they don't try to duplicate it exactly. They understand its principles and then improve upon it. On the edges of the chamber, Admiral Kang of the Coalition Defense Fleet shifted uncomfortably. Are you suggesting these humans pose a threat to Coalition space? They're confined to a single world. Tae and Sun exchanged glances. It was Tae who answered. They were confined to their world before we attacked them. Now they have our technology. Before our withdrawal, our long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures from their lunar base. They were testing drive systems capable of interstellar travel. He let that sink in before continuing. More concerning is what we found when we accessed their information networks. They have extensive records of something they call science fiction. Stories about space travel, alien contact, and interstellar warfare. For generations, they've been imagining meeting us. Some of their military strategies against us came directly from these fictional scenarios they had already envisioned. Elder Jin's skin had shifted to the pale blue of deep concern. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? A quarantine, Tae replied without hesitation. Complete and permanent. No coalition ship approaches the Sol system. We establish monitoring stations at the system's edge, but maintain absolute non-contact. Dr. Sun added, we should also distribute warning beacons throughout neighboring sectors. Other spacefaring civilizations must be warned. Council Representative Yoon looked incredulous. Warned about primitives? No, Sun corrected firmly. Warned about the only known sentient species to be classified as an adaptable apex predator. The council debated for hours, but in the end, the evidence was too compelling to ignore. The final vote was unanimous. The Sol system would be quarantined, marked with beacons that broadcast a simple message in all known languages. Danger, restricted zone, humans live here. 6 months after the Coalition retreat, an unmanned monitoring probe recorded a human vessel emerging from the Sol system. It moved with purpose, following the trail the Coalition fleet had left during its withdrawal. Though the probe was well hidden, sensors indicated the human ship detected it, changed course, and approached. The probe recorded a transmission from the human vessel, a simple message in perfect Coalition standard language. "We know you're watching. We're coming to talk. This time we'll be the ones making first contact." The probe's emergency protocols activated immediately, sending the recording to Coalition space at maximum speed. By the time it arrived, more human ships had been detected, leaving Sul, each more advanced than the last, each faster, each traveling further. In the Great Council chamber, Elder Jin viewed the reports with a mixture of dread and reluctant admiration. The Coalition had existed for 10,000 years, expanding slowly, methodically, overwhelming primitive species and absorbing or subjugating others. Never had they encountered a species that could adapt so quickly, that could take a devastating invasion and turn it into an opportunity for advancement. "They're explorers now," Dr. Sun observed as they watched recordings of the human vessels. "But they've not forgotten being attacked. They'll be prepared next time." Jin nodded solemnly. "We awakened something we don't understand. Something that perhaps we should have left alone." Outside the chamber windows, the glittering expanse of Coalition space stretched across thousands of worlds. For the first time in living memory, its leaders looked at that expanse and wondered how long it would remain exclusively theirs. Somewhere out there, humans were coming,